Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Dietitian Career Success. I'm Stacey Denemke, your host. I'm delighted that you are here. Also, if you are thinking about getting a new job or you want to tell your friends that they need a new job, do check out NutritionJobs.com. And if you are interested in looking at dietitian salaries based on someone's title, maybe where they're living, do also check out dietitiansalaries.com, which is a transparent salary database that you can sort through and see what's out there. So do check those out. I have a guest today that is very timely because I am getting ready to go to the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics annual conference, food and nutrition conference called FNCE. And I am joined today by my dietitian friend, Christianna Gozzi. Hi, Christianna.
Hi, Stacy. So happy to be here.
I am delighted because you and I have been friends on LinkedIn for a very long time. You are an amazing LinkedIn contributor. And in fact, I think of you as one of the premier LinkedIn trainers for dietitians and health professionals. So it's really fun to pop off the platform and talk to you here. And then you and I will see each other at the conference in real life. So we get all versions of ourselves here together. I have a lot of questions about networking at a big conference because
Mhm.
it is a lot, right? Like there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of expectation. I have been going to Fancy for many years and I still get anxious. So I would love to be able to tap into your expertise on networking but I also want to have you share a little bit about the type of work that you are doing now. You have a really fascinating job. Can you tell us about that first?
Sure. I'm happy to. So my current role is I'm a Wellbeing Project Manager within Compass Group. So Compass Group is one of the largest food service management companies. We provide not only food service support, but also clinical support. So you'll find clinical dietitians also that work for Compass. And so I work at the corporate level, creating, developing, enhancing well-being programs that help all of our sectors have better operations, work better with the systems, deliver on our client promise more. So it's a really cool role. I get to use my dietitian hat, I get to use my culinarian hat, and I also have a background in organizational psychology, so I get to think a lot about how processes are designed and how we can implement processes across, a very large company. So it's a great fit for me, and I'm really happy. I've been with Compass for a while and been in various roles, and this sort of emerged organically, and it's been really great.
Well, we are big fans at Nutrition Jobs of Compass Group because they are one of our featured employers. They have lots of jobs, lots of different states, a lot of different job titles, full-time, per diem, part-time, lots
Hmm.
of different opportunities. So just coincidence that Christiana works for them, but they are one of our featured employers. So shout out to them. So what kind of I'm very interested in this position. It sounds really helpful, but it's such a unique sort of non-traditional job. Can you tell us a little bit about how you landed that job, how you got that job?
Yeah, so I started with Compass and still a non-traditional role, but a bit more traditional in terms of being a wellness manager. So if you're out there looking for roles, you may have seen this title around. And essentially, it's sort of a corporate wellness role where you kind of the link between a client's interest in health and wellness within their employee population and the food service management. And the food service program. So you're working with chefs, you're working with front of house folks, you're maybe talking to the client about, integrating food into their wellness program. So I started out that way. I actually came into Compass as a dietetic intern. And did my rotations and found that I really liked the wellness work. Um, and so then I actually pivoted out of my full-time role into private practice for about 3 years, which I really enjoyed. but ultimately found myself missing the corporate environment, wanting to kind of pull more pieces of things I was interested in into a full-time role. And I was working part-time for Compass while I was doing my practice. And just little by little, projects came up and I raised my hand and I said, yeah, I'm happy to work on these projects. And then slowly it emerged into a full-time role. It was something that was very organic.
I love how you shared that you raised your hand, like you were very proactive about making yourself available and maybe showcasing your skills. I think that's a really great lesson that maybe that position isn't available right away, but
Mhm.
getting your foot in the door. I remember when I first started out working as a dietitian, in fact, I was just spending time with my family, and my own mother was reminding my daughter that I worked per diem for three different hospitals in the San Francisco Bay Area. So, and I loved all of those jobs. I quickly was able to get a full-time job, I think within the year, where I got benefits and
Mhm.
more stability and didn't have to always worry about if I was working or not working a weekend. But I think that's a really valuable lesson for dietitians who are just starting out, or maybe dietitians who are wanting to transition into a new role, that it may not present itself on the silver platter that you were hoping was presented,
Mhm.
that maybe it's a few small plates and then eventually you'll get served up on that silver platter. So I think that's a really great lesson. You've got a lot of skills. I always love hearing the words that you have on LinkedIn. You're really, really good at communicating and helping dietitians see their value and also their skills. So you've got a lot of skills. I think communication is probably one of them. But
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about your skill sets, skills that you were born with, and maybe skills that you have learned along the way to find yourself in a successful position.
Yeah, I think one skill that I think has made me a good fit, within a food service company is I am a foodie first dietitian, always. Food is what led me into becoming a dietitian. So, my grandmother was actually the food service director at my high school. So just having that family connection, has been, really meaningful to me. So, I think that's what I was born with was a love of food and cooking. Um, and I think what I probably was somewhat born with is I've always been fascinated by how people work and how people work together and the systems that we can put in place to help people like dietitians who are knowledge workers work better every day. And so I think that that's something that I've naturally had, and that's why I pursued the background in organizational psychology before I ever heard of dietetics. I didn't even know it was a job. Um, I actually thought I was going to be a professor of psychology, but ended up starting a baking blog while I was like working at a research center and bringing cookies in. And I'm like, I think I might want to do something in the food industry.
That's good.
Yeah. And then I ended up seeing a dietitian myself and like, oh, wow. But I've been able to pull in pieces of that organizational psychology work. And yeah, I just love talking to people about their work and helping them find processes that can make work easier because work is hard sometimes.
Work is really hard sometimes, but like you, I'm very interested in how people work. I always love the day in the life of how someone is
Mhm.
working and how they got there, what's behind the scenes. I always love behind the scenes. Maybe
Yes.
can you tell us just briefly? This is you can indulge me, but tell us a little bit about the day in the life of you working in your current position.
Sure. So, a lot of my time is spent communicating with chefs. So I work on recipe development, recipe creation, making sure that the recipes that we are going into a database, that proprietary database. So I can't talk too much about the specifics, but um, that the recipes that we're creating, meet the client guidelines. So we have a lot of clients that are interested in plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, etc., and just making sure that the chefs are empowered to have, the ingredients that they need. If there's any time where we have to declare allergens or things like that on a menu, reviewing products, making sure essentially that like what the guest sees from a food perspective is what's actually being made in the kitchen. And so through the power of virtual, I'm able to do all of this remotely, sending pictures and things like that. So um, yeah, it's a lot of coordinating with chefs, front of house, back of house.
Lucky you. That is such a, I love that role. And I love that you're able to do it remotely, not just because you can do it remotely, but you can reach a lot of people that way.
Yes,
Really,
yes,
like you couldn't travel to all these different locations because Compass is nationwide and the territories. So it's just, a lot more impact that you can have on the health and the business of Compass and
yes.
for their clients where they're
Hmm.
inserted at. So that's
Yeah.
really helpful. All right, let's talk about fancy. Let's talk about networking.
Yes.
I say this, I've been a dietitian for 30 plus years. I've been to the conference, many conferences all the time. I go all the time. I go to my local California one. I go to my local San Francisco Bay Area conferences. I go obviously to the national conference every single year. I have been doing it for 20 years and I still like will walk into a networking event, or actually just before I'm walking into the networking event, I'll be like a little bit on the outside of the door, like, okay, you can do this. Okay, here's what you're
Yes.
going to say. Okay, you got it. All right, let's go. And
Right.
then I'll walk in. So, how did you get good at networking?
I think it goes back to just being curious about what people do for work.
Mm.
Like I'm just always interested in knowing like, oh, this dietitian is doing this. Like what's that like? Um, and I think way back early in my career, I had a job at a university where was part of a research center, and it was like a interdisciplinary research center. So we had to bring all of different people from different schools together to work on this one issue. And I think just seeing the power of collaboration really helped gel in my mind, like, oh, this is just really about people working together. So to me, that's what it is. It's just being curious about what other people are doing.
I think you
Um,
just said a key word though. I think you just said, and I'm hearing what you're saying is that you're asking maybe some questions and you're listening to what they're doing. Obviously, they're going to ask you some questions too, but it sounds like it all starts with your own curiosity
mhm.
that is driving the skills. And maybe that's really helpful for people to understand too. Maybe take the pressure off of yourself that it's not so much about yourself, it's about learning about other people because people
Mhm.
love to talk about
Yes,
themselves. I always think that's so
absolutely.
funny. You just ask, like, you might just have like a few questions in your pocket and ask those people, and it's really fun to see where that goes. But I'm hearing that that's sort of maybe the foundation of how you
Mhm.
approach networking. And I think that's
Definitely.
helpful for people to hear. Yeah. All right. So I think of networking as a couple different phases, right? There's the pre-planning, there's the
Mhm.
at the event, which is what I always fixate on and ruminate on. And then there's the after stuff. Even when you're exhausted, there is some, post-conference follow-up. So maybe walk us through what you think are some important elements that should be tackled when you're thinking about, maybe tackled is the wrong word, but that you should embrace while you are, with networking in mind. Maybe start at the beginning or wherever you want to start.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I'll sort of frame this around using LinkedIn as a tool to help navigate the FNCE networking thing. And I think the first thing you can do is look at the program, right? So it's available online. You can see who the presenters are at the different sessions, and find the sessions that you're interested in and send those presenters a connection request on LinkedIn and say, hey, I see you're presenting at this session. I'm really excited to attend. Would love to connect with you. And then after the session, you can go back and message them again if they've accepted or whatever. And that just starts a conversation. Say, oh my gosh, I really, enjoyed your presentation. And that could be as far as it goes. Like it doesn't have to be something that you need from that person. You're just genuinely saying that you're interested in their work. But I think that's important for it to be genuine, right? Like find the people that you're most interested in listening to and asking more questions of, connect with them at the beginning of the conference. Um, and then, so that's like the sessions, right? And then there's the expo, which tons of brands there, right? Maybe you are a dietitian that's, a media dietitian and you want to work with some brand that's at FNCE. A lot of companies now have LinkedIn pages where you can connect with their brand. And so let's say you do a fun post, a LinkedIn post while you're at FNCE and you are trying these new, I don't know, dried fruit bar or something. Pose with a dried fruit bar and tag the brand and say, "Oh my gosh, I just got this bar. It's so good, blah blah blah." So you can interact too while you're at the conference. Those are some ideas.
Those are genius ideas. You brought up something really important, obviously, and that is someone's LinkedIn profile. So I think
Yeah.
I think that's genius actually to do a pre-connection with somebody that you're interested in meeting, whether it's an
Mhm.
attendee. I think there's also a list of attendees in the app
Okay.
when you're a conference attender, when you are
Yes.
attending. Um, and then also, of course, the people presenting and their
Hmm.
moderators as well. And then, of course, at the actual where the where the big party is, and that is
Yes.
all of the food brands. Whether you want to
Yeah.
work with them or whether you want to introduce that product to your clients, maybe you are in
Yes.
private practice or something, and so that's a great way to connect with them. And maybe they want to provide some samples or coupons, other product information that your clients, you're the liaison between them and your client and help you
Yes.
build up your nutrition business. But building up your own LinkedIn profile so that when they're trying to connect with you and then they see who you
Yeah.
are, your profile has to look a little ready to be seen. So, are
That's
there
a good
maybe
point.
one or two tips that you would recommend somebody who doesn't have a lot of time because, the conference at the time of our recording is a couple days from now.
Hmm.
So if someone just has like a couple days or a little bit of time to devote to their LinkedIn profile ahead of the conference, what are some areas they can focus on? Would you recommend anyway?
Yeah, I think the top half of your profile, like if you look at it on your phone, make sure that your photo is up to date. Because if you are going to approach someone in person and you look completely different than what's in your photo, that's not the best look. And
Right.
that could mean that, you're just zooming into like sometimes I see people with their LinkedIn profile and they're like I am now, like way far away. It's like I can't see you, like get a little closer to the camera. Um, then your headline area is important. So that's where it defaults, at least at this recording, they're always changing things, but it defaults to like what your current title is. So think about what you want to say in your headline, because that will catch someone's attention, like, oh, pediatric dietitian, or what I think mine has my title at Compass and then says networking chat for RDs. So that's kind of how I want to be known. So think about how you want to be known. Um, and then I think the last piece is just take a look. There's the about me. Just take a look at that section. And that's where you could share, something memorable about yourself. Like I think I always share the fact that my grandmother was a food service director at my high school because like it's just something nice. It's important to me and it's something that people kind of remember about me. So those are the three areas, your photo, your headline, and your little about section. Um, the rest of the stuff you can update later, like making sure like your job, your bullet points and stuff. But you're at a conference, people are, really it's just gonna send the connection request. So
Yeah, you're right. And then I think also in that top section, in the contact area, just making
hmm.
sure that you've got an email address that is
Yes.
maybe work or unwork related. You can decide what, how you want people to contact you. You can always remove that later on if you're concerned that you're going to get any spam, but you can make that available during the time of the conference or a little bit afterwards. And then a phone number if you want to, or a website you want to direct people to, or some other way to connect with you off of the platform if that might be applicable to how you want to be found and how you want to either collaborate with other dietitians or work with
Hmm.
brands, make money, whatever that might be. So thank you for that. That is super valuable. All right, then fast forward to the actual conference networking events. Like
Yeah.
what how do you move about a conference? I'm so curious.
Well, I think you have to preserve your energy. I mean, I like networking, but I'm also an introvert. I think you just have to be strategic about, where you're putting your energy. So obviously you're going to have a good interactions, kind of just milling about the hallways, going to what is it, the learning lounges, where you can actually interact with people. But yeah, I think planning ahead a little bit to give yourself time to see the sessions, but also time to maybe if you're having a DPG meetup or a MIG meetup, having things planned ahead of time is always helpful.
I always recommend still having a business card. I'm not sure how you feel about
Yeah.
that, but you can make business cards so easily now. You can make them
Hmm.
on Canva. You can make them at like your local Kinko's or FedEx. They're really easy to make, and you can obviously have your contact information on there, your phone number, email address, but you can also
Hmm.
have a QR code for your LinkedIn
Yes.
URL, which I think some people find helpful as well, or they can message each other that way. I think that can be really
Hmm.
helpful too. So having that on
Yeah.
hand so that again, you're not sort of fumbling around. Like you may have planned out your whole session, how you're going to, or your experience and how you're going to present yourself. And but then maybe like this dream person that you didn't realize was going to
Hmm.
be at the conference is there. You've always wanted to meet them. Maybe it's an internship director. Maybe it's a
Hmm.
your grand boss that you didn't even know was going to be there, and to be able to feel prepared to connect with them, like you're gonna like, here's my card. Like, takes the pressure.
Absolutely.
Because I too, I feel like I'm an introvert in these. It's just so massive. There's just so much going
It
on that it
is.
can easily. It's like going into the grocery store without a shopping list. Like you're
Hmm.
like, I know what I wanted in the car. I know what I wanted when I was back at home, but when I get to the grocery store, I'm like, holy smokes, I think I'm just going to get a bunch of whatever, unrelated to
Yeah.
what you were planning. So I like the idea of sort of planning out what you want to do. That's good.
Yeah, no, it can be overwhelming. It's such a huge conference. So I think going to like if you are too like kind of in touch with your niche or whatever you want to be known for, honing in on those sessions too, you might find a a, a tighter knit group of folks that you can hand your business card to.
That's a great idea, actually. And getting to the session of, 5 minutes early and then sitting at a
Hmm.
table, you can see like, oh, and if you've got help as well, I have a practice, here. How do you handle this situation? Like you can it doesn't always have to be about making money. It doesn't always have to be about
Hmm.
collaborating. It could just be an exchange of information or, a mini mastermind where you both are offering up, oh, I've never learned about how to document that. That sounds like a great way to do it. How do you do it? Or, being able to work together. And because it's so rare that you can see so many dietitians together, we're all working in different areas, but we all have a commonality between us in how we're
Hmm.
serving for the most part anyway. So we're all sort of there for the same reason. So that's good. All right.
Definitely.
My least favorite part is after the conference, I go for a full 5 days. So I'm there because I have a booth and it's a
Hmm.
lot of output. And like you said, it's exhausting. Follow up. What do you recommend for following up with networking at the end of a conference? What are your recommendations?
Yeah, I think, if you do have a stack of business cards, right, from other folks handing them out, make sure you're getting on LinkedIn, sending connection requests, reminding folks how they met you during the conference. So I think it's really just about remembering who you met and making sure that you get connected with them on LinkedIn, and then you can take the conversation from there. If it's somebody who you feel like it makes sense to have a virtual coffee with, or if it's someone who it makes sense to just start following their content and commenting. But I think I had a friend once a long time ago who said that he would take after a conference, and this was probably like 2013, maybe if not even before then. So this was like still kind of early in LinkedIn days. He would look at the back of the program, which now we're talking paper programs, and he would send a LinkedIn request to every single person attend to that.
That's
He
so
was like an
fun.
extreme extrovert, but he was like, you know what? Who cares?
Why
Like they
not?
don't, if they don't connect with you back, then it's no big deal.
Or if they don't
Um,
connect, just follow up again because
yeah,
everybody gets so busy. I don't know
yes,
you after a conference, like I get emails from people 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks afterwards saying,
yeah,
it was great to see you at FNCE. And that's totally fine. It doesn't have to be within
totally.
24 hours. Yeah.
No, actually, it's probably good to even wait a little while
Mhm.
because, like, I know for me, like, I'm back to work on Wednesday and I'm going to be catching up. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be thinking about, like, responding to messages. So it could be good to even wait a little while strategically, you
Yeah,
know,
I agree. I
put it in your
agree.
calendar as a reminder. But yeah, I'll never forget that. He's like, yeah, I just flipped the program over and I just, I just connect with all of them. I'm like, okay.
Wow. Well, at the last conference, I was at the airport together with another dietitian, and we're going through all of the cards we had received. And we both have ChatGPT on our phones as an app, and we
Hmm.
would take pictures of people's business cards and have ChatGPT then upload all of that data and create a database of all the
Mm,
information so that we could then, I think we added a column to say, whether we were going to connect with them or not. So like, my goodness, the advancements that we can take advantage of are certainly helpful to preserve our time and our energy. I think
yes.
that's really helpful as well. Any
Yeah.
other tips? Like, how do you not feel anxious when you're going into some sort of networking event?
I think because I go to the sessions that I know that I feel like are my people, so to speak, where I know maybe there's going to be a couple familiar faces, or I'm just going to feel a little bit more comfortable with the content. And so I feel confident that, I just feel like I'm comfortable being there. I deserve to be there. This is my niche. Um, yeah,
I like that. I like that you deserve to be there. I think that's
yeah.
helpful for people who are feeling anxious if they're brand new dietitians, or
Hmm.
maybe they're a dietitian who hasn't been in a long time. And I
Yeah,
think there are some dietitians who are the media spokespeople. They're really comfortable talking and meeting new people and walking up to a booth and sort of owning the conversation. So I feel like hearing that from a dietitian who's been practicing for a while as well, that you belong there. This
absolutely.
is for you. There is no dietitian that's more important than another. Some
Hmm.
dietitians may make more money or be more visible on TV, but you deserve to be there just like them. So I think
Hmm.
thank you. That was like a really big pearl that I'm sure a lot of people will really take to heart and really benefit from. I appreciate that.
Good, good.
All right, pivoting a little bit, I always like to talk about, speaking of money, talk
Hmm.
about dietitians, our salaries, making money, and tell us how, in your opinion, how do you think that we can make more money as dietitians?
I think I'll speak from my perspective, my experience. I think what has been a competitive advantage for me is I'm willing to learn new systems and new skills. Really honing in more on digital skills. I think that being able to say, you know what, I'm the one, I'm going to learn this. I'm willing to do this job that maybe somebody else is not willing to do. And that it's a long-term game, right? Like if you can learn, for example, I was talking about a recipe database that we use. I have leaned into that. I have learned as much about that database as I possibly can, and that has allowed me to serve more clients in my role, right? And the more clients means the larger the role, the larger the salary. Um, so I would say learning systems and not being intimidated to make mistakes as you're learning those new systems.
Oh my gosh, that is such a pearl as well. Like that is really valuable because you're trying to make yourself valuable
Yeah.
and benefit the company so that the company makes they're successful and they make money, and it
Yeah.
just goes around a big circle. And being open and understanding that systems evolve, change happens, nothing stays static. Even if we want it to, it's not going to. Having that mindset, I think, is super, super helpful. So that's very, very helpful. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
Christiana, how would you like people to connect with you?
I would love connection requests on LinkedIn.
Of
Christiana
course.
Gozzi. Yep. I'm there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not looking for a job, but I'm always on LinkedIn. So,
Yeah, well,
um,
it's a great place to be. It's a great
yeah,
platform.
yeah.
I will have how to connect with her, everybody, in the description, show notes, so you can connect with her on LinkedIn and do say hi. Tell her you where you found her,
Please,
and
please do.
share that you were thankful for all of her pearls. I am thankful, and I know that these are going to be well received by our audience as well. So thank you so much, Christiana. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Stacey. Thank you.
All right, everybody, bye for now.